week we're looking at the end of the Cold War, and we're going to start by looking at some of the growing problems that were taking place in the Soviet Union. And so, one of the big problems in the Soviet Union was after Nikita Khrushchev, the leaders afterwards tended to be very conservative, and they no longer pursued those aggressive communist policies, and they no longer pursued change and trying to strengthen communism in the Soviet Union. They became content, and that led to kind of a gradual decline in political leadership. Also, their failed war in Afghanistan. And in a lot of ways, the Soviet war in Afghanistan mirrored the US war in Vietnam. They intervened to try to prop up a pro-Soviet regime in Afghanistan, and the war just continued to drag on, and casualties continued to mount, the costs continued to mount, and it became a very unpopular war back in the Soviet Union. And so eventually they kind of give in and simply withdraw from the invasion in Afghanistan. Also, economic problems. And the economic problems, as they kind of loom not just in the Soviet Union, but also in Eastern Europe, it also created this stark contrast to these Western economies, because these Western economies were thriving. And so these communist regimes, the economies were struggling. They didn't have access to many consumer goods. And one of the reasons for that was the massive military spending. The United States was spending a ton on defense spending, but it only amounted to a very small percentage of their overall national income. Well, in the Soviet Union, they were spending about a third of their total budget on the military. And towards the later parts of the Cold War, it was even more than that. And so much money was going to try to keep pace with the United States and military spending that they weren't able to use that money in other areas. Also, some environmental problems. About half of the Soviets' agricultural land was endangered. They also struggled with problems like pollution. And this is actually leading to health concerns throughout the Soviet Union. In some regions of the Soviet Union, many people suffered from diseases, especially respiratory problems. And so these were kind of the underlying problems that were gradually leading to the Soviet decline.